Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I really appreciate Dr. Bidushi to inviting us to give this talk today. It's actually quite exciting to present our work with all this this expertise crowd. So I remember the first call I got from Dr. Bidushi to just brief me about so I'm going to give a talk about how should I focus it. So she was briefing me, and I said, is the message you want to deliver is that in between doing nothing and actually going to Mars, there's a bunch of things you can do in space, and just yes, just please actually rephrase that, just say that. So I try to present our work in such a way. So I'm coming from Center for Quantum Technologies. I'm doing my PhD under the supervision of Alexander Lin, and what we do is we do quantum key distribution, and the message I want to give you guys today is that we need to go to space. All right. So the outline I'm going to follow today is I will talk about the motivation of our project. What's the reason why we're putting so much effort in this project? That will lead me to quantum key distribution. I'll just try to give some details about these protocols of this technology. And then I will go into detail in our project, in both the payload and also the satellite we want to build. Okay, so in order to back up our motivation, I'll need to talk a little bit about cryptography, right? So cryptography is just the ability to communicate for two parties to communicate securely when a third party, when eavesdropper, it's in the middle of this communication, right? So you can think of, let's say, Alice and Bob, and then Alice wants to send a message to Bob through a non-secure channel. So in cryptography, you have actually two types of protocols. The first one is the asymmetric protocol, where each of these parties in the communication, let's say Alice and Bob, each one of them, they will have a pair of keys, a public key and a private key, right? So if Alice is to send a message to Bob, she will get Bob's public key, she will cipher the message, she will send it through the non-secure channel, and then once Bob receives this message, he will be able to decipher with his private key. So far so good. This actually works, but there's a problem. The relationship in between this public and private key, they only rely in let's say complicated mathematical algorithms, right? So you could say, oh, but no, right? Nowadays it's good enough, and no one can crack some of, I don't know, AES or DES. No, they can't. And even more when quantum computers are around the corner, once they come to to play into the game, those classical algorithms, they're done. So we really need to look for another solution. So thankfully we have symmetric key protocols, where Alice and Bob, they will both have the same key. So Alice will cipher the message again with this key, private, not private or public, just the key. And then she will send it to the secure channel, and Bob, again, will decipher it. So if you use this protocol in what they call one-time path configuration, which means that the key is random and you don't reuse this key, this is 100% secure. There's no algorithm, no hacker that can actually, I'm so sorry, no worries. There's no hacker that can actually hack this protocol. So, but now there's another drawback. You have to actually first distribute this key, and you guys can think it's not efficient to go, walk in yourself to Alice, give a key, walk to Bob, give another key. Now you guys can communicate because maybe Alice is in Paris and Bob is in Singapore. So you basically cannot do that. And this is where quantum key distribution helps you. Okay. I've been talking about keys and messages. Those are nothing but just chunks of ones and zeros, right? Strings of bits. So you somehow manage out your way to, encode those bits of information in particles, and you distribute them. So this is what quantum key distribution is doing. Quantum key distribution actually encodes these bits that eventually will make up this key on the polarization states of photons, right? So this is how QKD works. You will, as I said, encode these bits on the polarization of the bits. You will distribute them to Alice and Bob, And given a certain, they need to choose which basis for the polarization. They need to choose how they measure and how they set. But eventually, what they will do, they will agree upon a key, which is only based on the polarization of these photons. And this actually works because photons, as you guys may know, they are coherent. They are particles of light that are coherent. They can travel long distances without undergoing decoherence. So it actually works. So this QKD technology has been proven through optical fiber, because of course these photons, they have to travel, right? We want to communicate Alice and Bob even though they may be very far away from each other. So in optical fiber, it works, but there's another drawback, which is the losses. When you use optical fibers, commercial optical fibers, you look something about 0.2 dB losses per kilometer. So it means in a 15 kilometer path, half of your signal is done. And here we focus on global scale communications. We want to link different countries, right? So if you think of trying to link, Singapore with Perth, that's about 4,000 kilometers. We're talking about 800 dB losses, which means that if from Singapore 10 to the power of 80 photons leave our lab, let's say, only one of them will reach Perth. This is completely unfeasible. We need to do something else, right? So QKD also works in free space. With optical fiber, you'll be limited by, let's say, 100 kilometers, something like that. With free space, it gets a bit better, but not too much. I think the record nowadays is something like 150 kilometers. This experiment was done in the Canary Islands. And again, photons can travel through the atmosphere. They don't go through the coherence, but eventually the Alice and Bob, they need to look at each other, right? So you will be limited by the curvature of the Earth. You can go up to the mountains, but eventually you need to go higher and higher and higher. So what's next? Space. But of course, we are not the only ones looking at this kind of, where to bring QKD. So you can actually think, okay, I'll get my ground station, and I will put my source on the ground station, delivering those photons, and I'll have my receivers on the satellite, or the other way around. I'll send the photons down from the satellite to the ground station, or even better, the satellite actually, in case number 3, communicating to two ground stations. And eventually, of course, you can do inter-satellite communications and also through the ground stations. So as I said, we are not the only ones. People from Europe, China, they're looking at these kind of technologies, right? But for our case, right, we need to validate a lot of things. We use, for instance, blue lasers. If you go to the market, you can't really find space-proven blue lasers. Or, as I said, you're working with photons, so you use single photon detectors. And most of them, they are not space-proven. So there's a lot of technology that we need to validate. So what we first will do is, we'll build this source, we'll put our CubeSat, and we will both produce and detect these photons without leaving the spectrum. We're gonna just stay there. So this is our mission. We want to build a source that is bright enough for us to produce all these photons and be able to, from a satellite, send it through the atmosphere down to the Earth and overcome a lot of losses. Maybe not those 800 dBs that I was talking about, but maybe something like 40 or 50. So yeah, CubeSats. You already know what they are. This is a 1U CubeSat, a cube of 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters. For us, the main reason why we went for this approach is that the iteration cycle, right? We can try maybe I don't know, once or twice a year with different CubeSats, and we want to just repeat we don't want to go once and demonstrate everything, but rather try and try and try. So yeah, we're looking at something. If let's say we have our source having the satellite and we generate 1 million photons a second, we need to overcome these 40 dB losses if your satellite is in let's say LEO, so that our key rate, the key that eventually Alice and Bob will share, will have a rate of maybe 100 bits per second. So those are parameters regarding the experiment. Maybe later I'll go in detail. But we basically, yeah, as I said, 1 million photons. This 96% quantum state pureness. It's a parameter of the experiment that I don't mind. I'll go through it later. And also the efficiency, how efficient you generate these photons. Okay, so how do we generate these photons? How do we where are they coming from, right? So what we use is this effect called spontaneous parametric down conversion, where actually a blue laser is pumping nonlinear crystals, so crystals with special properties. And what will happen is that one of those blue photons, once in a while, it will disappear in the middle of the crystal, and then 2 other photons will come around. All right, and those photons, maybe some of you guys have heard about this entanglement. They will be entangled, all right? Given some energy and momentum conservation. So this is pretty much how our experiment looks like. So we have 2 of these special crystals. We generate photons with H polarization and P polarization. Okay, and these photons will be entangled. All right. And if you do, we want to shrink everything as much as we can. We want don't forget it's an optic experiment, so we need to actually align it properly. And we also want it to be robust so that it will, survive a rocket launch. This is what you end up with. This is a 3D printed version of our payload. I'm going to just pass it around so that you guys can take a look. Okay, so this is 10 by 10 centimeters. We have everything included. We have the optics and the electronics to run this experiment. The mass is around half a kg. As I said, we also build not only our payload but also the satellite. So our payload name is SPEX, and SpookySat is the 3U CubeSat which actually will carry the experiment. And I think we've been working for 4 to 5 years already. There is some sort of like evolution in our program. So first we wanted to create these photons in space, then only just classical photons. Then we wanted to entangle them, and then the third generation would be to actually make a lot of these photons so that we can beam it down to Earth, right? And well, this is the actual layout of the experiment. And how much time do I have left? So, well, yeah. So this is the payload you guys are just passing around, and this plot, this quantum visibility I was talking about. This is how sensitive it is. All right. In angular tolerance, we cannot tolerate angular deviation tolerance. We cannot tolerate anything above 100 microradians. If we go more than that, our alignment is just gone. It's really sensitive. We do plenty of tests, thermal tests, vibration tests. Just right now I was speaking to a student doing a thermal analysis. We really need this kind of analysis. So we test everything so that we actually are sure that once we put this CubeSat in space, it will work. And just last but not least, how we actually secure all the components of these crystals in the optical trench. We use what we call a flexure stage, which is a mechanical piece, like in some sort of like a C piece, which some screw, right? So in order to get this alignment, we just play around with a screw, and we secure all these things on the optical trench. I think you can get a look at the 3D printed version. Yeah, that's pretty much. Thank you very much.